You are sitting in the waiting room of your dentist's office. You know the exact environment I'm talking about.
No, absolutely. The smell of clinical sterility.
Right. That clinical smell that's masking, like a faint hint of clove oil. And there's that soft, kind of inoffensive instrumental music playing from a ceiling speaker.
Usually some terrible jazz cover of a pop song.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you aren't relaxed. You are clutching a glossy piece of paper they just handed you at the front desk. It is a treatment plan.
And you're just staring at the bottom right corner.
You are. The number sitting at the very bottom of that page, right next to the line that says total out of pocket, is $12,000.
Just a staggering amount of money to process on a Tuesday morning.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's for a procedure that Medicare, the system you've paid into your entire working life, just won't touch. Your retirement spreadsheet, the one you spent literally years perfecting, had absolutely no line item for this.
None at all. It's completely invisible on most financial plans.
Right. So suddenly you're sitting there in that vinyl chair facing a very real, very terrifying choice. You are choosing between keeping your teeth or keeping your grocery money for the next 6 months. The waiting room feels entirely different now, doesn't it?
The music suddenly feels invasive, almost mocking, really.
It does. You look around at the other patients flipping through old magazines, and you start wondering if any of them are holding similar financial bombshells disguised as treatment plans.
You see an elderly gentleman in the corner chair reading with practiced calm, but you notice his hands are trembling just slightly as he turns the pages.
It is such an incredibly isolating moment to experience. You are sitting there surrounded by people, yet you are entirely alone with a catastrophic financial calculation that you simply never saw coming.
It's the moment the theoretical concept of aging crashes headfirst into the hard, undeniable reality of biological maintenance.
Exactly. And the middle-aged woman sitting across from you keeps checking her phone. She's probably opening her banking app, calculating the exact same way you are calculating right now.
Trying to move money between accounts in her head.
Yep. So today, our mission on this deep dive is to explore the hidden financial traps in retirement healthcare. Specifically, we are going into the massive system-wide blind spots surrounding dental care in Australia.
Because it is a massive blind spot, we're going to look at the data, the biology, and the historical decisions that created a system where your mouth is somehow considered financially separate from the rest of your body.
Which is just wild when you say it out loud.
It really is. It's a systemic blind spot that routinely catches the most prepared, the most meticulous planners completely off guard.
Because the architecture of the system is fundamentally designed in a way that hides the true cost of aging. It hides it until you are literally in the chair, in pain, and entirely out of options.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yes, let's. Because to really understand how insidious this trap is, we aren't just going to look at dry statistics. We're going to look at this complex system through the perspective of Margaret Thompson.
Margaret is a great example. She's a 67-year-old retired high school math teacher from Blacktown, which is a suburb out in Western Sydney.
And we are deliberately looking at her story because of her methodical, well-planned perspective. I want to be really clear up front here. Margaret is not someone who just winged it.
No, not at all. She didn't live beyond her means. She is a math teacher. She lived for the numbers.
She understood compounding interest. Margaret thought she had her retirement finances utterly bulletproof.
And if you look at her financial baseline, you can see exactly why she felt that way. This crisis wasn't caused by financial irresponsibility on her part.
So let's establish her assets to prove that this is a systemic invisibility issue, not an individual failure. Margaret had 42 years of teaching under her belt.
Right. She diligently contributed to her superannuation, the Australian retirement fund system. Watching that balance grow steadily over decades, she got it to a very respectable $320,000.
Plus, she owned her modest 3-bedroom home in Blacktown outright. She bought it back in 1987, and it's now worth about $750,000. The mortgage was paid off 8 years ago.
She even had a small emergency fund sitting in cash. On paper, she was the absolute model of the responsible Australian retiree.
She felt completely confident. Every school holiday, Margaret used to sit at her kitchen table, spreading out her superannuation statements and running the government's retirement income calculators.
Which is more than most people do, honestly.
Absolutely. She approached her retirement with the exact same methodical rigor she used to teach algebraic equations to teenagers. She knew her preservation age.
She calculated that her partial age pension eligibility at 67, combined with drawing down modestly on her superannuation, would give her about $55,000 a year to live on.
And that specific number was designed to preserve her capital for as long as humanly possible.
Which is an incredibly disciplined approach. But before we get into how that beautiful, disciplined spreadsheet completely unraveled, I want you, the listener, to pause and genuinely think about your own assumptions right now.
Yeah, that's an important exercise.
What do you actually believe your taxes and universal health care will cover as you age? We all pay the Medicare levy out of our paychecks. We all assume there is a safety net waiting to catch us.
But is there really?
Well, I want you to ask yourself, if you woke up tomorrow with a medical crisis that wasn't immediately life-threatening but severely impacted your ability to eat, sleep, or function, how sure are you that the public system would fix it for free?
It is a very uncomfortable question when you really sit with it, because Margaret thought she had an answer to that. Let's dig into her specific healthcare budget, because this is where the trap was basically set.
Right, her medical line item.
She budgeted $1,800 annually for out-of-pocket medical costs. And again, being a math teacher, she didn't just pull that number out of thin air.
She looked at her historical spending data. During her 40s and 50s, she spent maybe $800 a year on a few prescription medications, the occasional gap fee for a GP visit, and routine dental checkups.
So budgeting $1,800 a year for retirement felt incredibly conservative to her. She thought she was building in a massive, mathematically sound buffer.
She even bragged to her daughter about it. She was proud that she actually planned for retirement health care instead of just hoping for the best.
But that's the trap.
It is. The psychological trap Margaret fell into is something behavioral economists refer to as continuity bias. It's a cognitive shortcut where our brains just assume the future will largely resemble the recent past.
So Margaret logically assumed the healthcare costs of her working years would simply carry over into her retirement years, maybe with a slight adjustment for inflation.
Exactly. It reminds me of a student who spends weeks perfectly studying the wrong syllabus for a massive test.
Oh, that's a brilliant analogy. They know the material back to front, they've memorized all the formulas, they show up on exam day full of confidence.
And they turn over the paper only to find the questions are in a completely different language. They didn't fail because they were lazy. They failed because the parameters of the test were hidden from them.
So what does this all mean for Margaret? It means that past health expenses are fundamentally terrible predictors of future retirement costs.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. Margaret was studying for an algebra test, but biological aging is chaos theory. Spreadsheets are linear.
They are incredibly comforting because they give us a sense of control. You put a formula into a spreadsheet cell, you drag it down, and it gives you a predictable, stable outcome for the next 30 years.
But biology is not linear. Biology is exponential, and it is entirely unpredictable. You cannot put cellular degradation into a spreadsheet and expect it to behave.
No, you really can't. Margaret assumed her body would age like a car, depreciating at a fixed, steady percentage every year. But the human body doesn't do that.
Which brings us from the comforting theory of Margaret's spreadsheet straight into the physical ticking clock of a biological emergency.
Let's talk about the origin of the problem, because it is almost absurd how far back this goes. It started with a cracked lower right second molar.
And the kicker here, the origin of this crack wasn't recent.
No, it started from biting down on a piece of hard toffee at a school Christmas party back in 2003.
It is truly incredible how long these biological fuses can burn before they detonate.
Decades, literally decades.
A tiny microfracture in the enamel can sit dormant for decades, slowly expanding by fractions of a millimeter every time you chew, every time you grind your teeth in your sleep, or every time you drink something hot followed by something cold.
Her dentist, Dr. Patterson, had actually warned her about it in December. She went in for a routine checkup, and he told her the large amalgam fillings she got after that 2003 toffee incident was deteriorating.
He took an x-ray, showed her the hairline cracks spider webbing through the remaining tooth structure, and explained that the tooth was severely compromised.
He gave her the options, right? They could attempt a complex crown to hold the crumbling tooth together, though with no guarantees it would last. Or she could plan for an extraction and an implant.
But here is the crucial part of the story. She was in absolutely no pain.
None. So Margaret, looking at her carefully balanced $55,000 a year budget, chose to delay the treatment.
Which, if we are looking at this purely through the lens of short-term financial logic, makes complete sense. Why spend thousands of dollars on a piece of your body that isn't currently sending you pain signals?
Right. If your car has a dent but drives perfectly fine, you don't spend $5,000 replacing the bumper unless you have to.
But again, biological timelines do not respect financial logic. A tooth with a hairline crack is not a bented bumper. It is a breach in a highly sensitive biological fortress.
Fast forward to March. Just 3 months later, what started as a minor, dull ache on a Tuesday morning while she was eating her porridge escalated into absolute blinding agony by Thursday night.
We are talking pacing the kitchen floor at 3 in the morning.
She tried rubbing clove oil on her gums, which just burned the tissue and did nothing for the deeper pain. She tried rinsing with warm salt water.
She even tried an old wives' tale about swishing whiskey around the tooth.
Oh, wow, did that help at all?
No, it just left her dizzy, nauseated, and still in complete agony. Over-the-counter ibuprofen and paracetamol were like throwing a glass of water on a house fire.
By Monday morning, she is at the clinic doors, begging for an emergency appointment. The clinical reality. The tooth was completely beyond saving.
Bacteria had infiltrated that hairline crack, reached the soft pulp inside the tooth, and created a massive abscess. The infection was actively spreading into the surrounding jawbone.
The type of pain she experienced is profound, and I think it's worth explaining why dental pain is so uniquely torturous.
Yeah, it's because the teeth are situated incredibly close to the trigeminal nerve. That is one of the largest and most complex nerve networks in the human head.
So when an infection builds up inside the rigid, unyielding structure of a tooth, the pressure has literally nowhere to go.
Exactly. It presses directly down onto that nerve root. It is a relentless, throbbing, inescapable pain that completely prevents sleep and rational thought. It forces your hand. You can no longer delay.
Now, here is where I have to push back a bit, or at least voice the question that a lot of listeners might be screaming at their speakers right now.
Go for it.
Wait, it's just a tooth. She's in agony. The tooth is ruined. Why not just pull the thing out for a few $100 or be done with it?
It's a fair question.
I mean, Margaret is 67 years old. She's retired. She doesn't need a perfect, glowing Hollywood smile for walking the red carpet. Why does she need to go through all this incredibly expensive reconstruction? Just yank it.
It is the most common question patients ask in that exact scenario. And what's fascinating here is the severe biological consequence of that seemingly logical cheap fix.
The extraction.
Right. If you just pull the tooth, which was the $800 extraction option Dr. Patterson offered, you aren't just leaving a cosmetic gap in your smile. You are setting off a catastrophic chain reaction in the structural engineering of your jaw.
Wait, really? A chain reaction just from an empty space?
Yes. To understand this, we have to look at how bone actually works. The jawbone, specifically the alveolar bone that holds your teeth, requires constant mechanical stimulation to maintain its density.
So it needs to be used to stay strong.
Precisely. Every time you chew, the roots of your teeth press down into the bone. That pressure sends a signal to your body saying, hey, we are using this bone, keep it strong.
Okay, that makes sense.
The body is incredibly efficient. It constantly remodels bone using cells called osteoblasts, which build bone up, and osteoclasts, which break it down. When a tooth is removed, that mechanical stimulation stops instantly.
The signal shuts off.
The body senses the change and thinks, oh, we aren't using this section of bone anymore. There's no need to waste resources maintaining it. So the osteoclasts take over.
Oh, no.
The body literally begins to break the jawbone down and absorb the calcium and minerals back into the bloodstream to use elsewhere. This is called bone resorption.
So you're saying the jawbone actually starts to shrink and dissolve?
Dramatically and much faster than people realize. You can lose up to 25% of the bone width in that area within the first 12 months after an extraction.
25% in a year.
And once that vertical height and horizontal width of bone is gone, it is permanently gone. If you decide to just pull the tooth now to save money and think, I'll get an implant in 5 years when I've saved up, you will find that you no longer have the biological foundation, the actual bone required to anchor an implant.
Wow. But, okay, even if the bone shrinks right there, it's just one spot in the back of the mouth. Does it really matter that much?
It matters immensely because of what happens to the surrounding teeth. Your teeth naturally want to be in contact with each other. If there's a gap, the teeth on either side will slowly start to drift and tilt into the empty space.
Like books leaning over on a half-empty shelf.
That's a perfect way to picture it. Even worse, the tooth directly above the gap in the upper jaw will undergo something called supereruption. Because it no longer has a lower tooth to bite against, it will literally start growing downward out of the gum, searching for contact.
It grows out of your upper gum. That sounds like a horror movie.
It essentially is a slow-motion structural collapse. This shifting alters your entire bite mechanics. Your jaw joints, the TMJ, have to compensate for this new, uneven bite.
Which causes more problems, I assume.
It leads to chronic jaw joint pain, severe tension headaches, and the premature accelerated wear and tear of your remaining healthy teeth because the chewing forces are no longer distributed evenly.
So one missing tooth ruins the others.
Eventually, if you lose multiple teeth and significant bone, it literally alters the outward structure of your face, causing the jaw to collapse inward, which gives that sunken, prematurely aged appearance.
Okay, I take it back. That is not just cosmetic. That is heavy structural engineering.
Precisely. We really need to distinguish between necessary and elective dental work. A veneer to make your front teeth whiter is cosmetic, but an implant for a primary chewing molar to preserve your jaw's bone density and maintain your fundamental bite mechanics.
That's medical scaffolding.
Exactly. That is medically necessary scaffolding to prevent long-term systemic functional decline.
And that stark structural reality is what brings us to the cost breakdown. Because the engineering required to stop that jaw collapse is what generated the $11,800 bombshell handed to Margaret.
It's a huge number to swallow.
It is. Let's break down exactly what that money pays for, because I hear 11 grand and I think, well, I can buy a decent used car for that.
Yeah.
Walk me through exactly why a tiny titanium screw and some artificial bone costs as much as a vehicle. Where's the money actually going?
It's a completely fair pushback. To understand the cost, you have to look at the materials, the technology, and the highly specialized human capital involved. Here is the breakdown of Margaret's treatment plan.
Okay, lay it on me.
First, the extraction of the infected tooth. That's $800. This isn't just pulling a tooth. It requires a surgical extraction to carefully preserve the fragile surrounding bone walls.
Because they need those walls for the next step.
Right. Second, because they have to immediately pack that hole to stop the jaw from rapidly shrinking, she needs a bone graft. That's $3,200.
Wait, what does a bone graft actually entail? Is it her bone?
Not usually. The surgeon has to clean the infected socket meticulously, and then they pack the empty space with a sterilized synthetic or bovine bone matrix.
Ovine, like from a cow.
Yes, heavily sterilized and processed. It looks like coarse sand. They cover it with a specialized collagen membrane and stitch the gum closed over it. This matrix acts as a scaffold.
Okay.
Over the next several months, Margaret's body will slowly migrate her own bone cells into that scaffold, turning it into solid jawbone. It requires advanced biomaterials and precise surgical skill.
Okay, so that's $4,000 just to get the tooth out and prep the site. What's next?
Next is the implant post and the surgical placement. This is the foundation. It costs $4,500.
For one screw.
The money here goes toward a medical-grade titanium alloy screw that has been precision machined and surface treated to encourage osseointegration, which is the process of the human bone literally fusing to the metal.
Fusing to it, yeah.
And before they place it, the specialist has to use advanced 3D CBCT scanning to map the exact density of her bone and locate the exact pathway of the trigeminal nerve.
Because if they hit the nerve...
If they place the screw 1 millimeter too deep, they sever the nerve and cause permanent numbness in her face. The cost reflects the technology, the pristine, sterile surgical environment, and the decades of specialized training the surgeon has to ensure they don't paralyze part of her face.
Right, okay. So the precision is literally microscopic.
Exactly. And finally, you have the crown fabrication and fitting, which is $3,300. This isn't an off-the-shelf piece of plastic.
I would hope not for that price.
A master ceramist has to custom fabricate a porcelain tooth that perfectly matches the exact microscopic ridges of Margaret's upper teeth, perfectly matches the color of her surrounding teeth, and can withstand hundreds of pounds of bite force per square inch for the next 20 years.
That's intense. So add it all together. Extraction, graft, titanium implant, custom crown. Total is $11,800.
The technical complexity of that is staggering.
Which naturally leads us to the most baffling part of this entire deep dive.
Yeah.
The great Medicare misunderstanding.
The assumption we all make.
Right. Margaret was a smart woman. She knew about x-rays and surgeons. She thought, I've paid taxes my whole life. I have a massive, dangerous infection in my skull that requires advanced surgery, biomaterials, and scanning to fix.
Surely the universal health system that I've paid into for 40 years covers this.
Exactly. Why was she so wrong? Let's go back to the historical architecture of the Australian healthcare system. Medicare was established in 1984, but dental care was deliberately, specifically excluded. Why? Did they just forget about teeth?
They absolutely did not forget. It was an intense philosophical and economic battle. The exclusion of dental care from Medicare was almost entirely about cost containment and intense political compromises.
It always comes down to the budget.
To understand this, you have to look at the history of the medical professions. For centuries, medicine and dentistry developed entirely separately. Physicians treated the body, while barber surgeons pulled teeth.
Barber surgeons. A haircut and an extraction.
Exactly. That historical separation persisted into modern times. When the government was designing the architecture of Medicare in the early 1980s, they ran the numbers. They realized that dental disease cavities, gum disease, tooth loss was incredibly prevalent across the entire population.
So it was just too expensive.
The political calculation was brutal. Including comprehensive dental care would have blown the entire federal budget out of the water. To get Medicare passed, they had to draw a line.
So they essentially legislated the mouth away from the body to save the budget.
They made a massive, fundamentally flawed assumption. They assumed that the heavily unionized workforce would be covered by employer-based private health insurance, and that the public hospital system would only need to act as a safety net for basic emergency extractions for pensioners and the unemployed.
Here's where it gets really interesting. One of the research sources we reviewed uses this brilliant analogy to explain how this 1984 decision impacts people today, and I want to expand on it.
I know exactly which one you mean.
The source compares Medicare to a massive department store. It's a department store that runs endless advertisements saying, "Come on in. Shopping here is entirely free." But there's a catch. The free shopping is only strictly limited to the ground floor.
I absolutely love that analogy. It perfectly encapsulates the powerful cognitive bias that Australians develop over their lifetimes.
Right, so picture this department store. On the ground floor, you've got your local general practitioners, your public hospital emergency rooms, your basic pathology blood tests, and your x-rays for broken bones.
All the basics.
You walk in, you get what you need, you swipe your green Medicare card, and you walk out the sliding doors without ever opening your wallet. But the department store has upper floors.
And this is where it gets dangerous.
And the upper floor is where the dental clinic is, where the physiotherapist is, where the psychologist, the podiatrist, and the specialized surgeons are. Those upper floors charge full retail price. And there are no signs on the ground floor warning you about it.
And this historical policy design from 1984 has created a modern crisis, precisely because of how we experience time and aging. Working Australians spend 30 or 40 years exclusively shopping on the ground floor.
Because they're relatively healthy.
Exactly. If you're a healthy 30-something, you see a bulk billing GP when you get the flu. Maybe you go to the emergency room once because you broke your arm playing local footy. You spend decades developing a deep, ingrained cognitive bias.
That free healthcare is a given.
Your lived experience tells you over and over again that healthcare in Australia is free. You internalize it as an absolute truth, but then you retire.
And your body ages.
Exactly. Your body ages, and suddenly your medical needs migrate almost entirely away from the ground floor. You need a root canal. You need a physiotherapist for your failing knee. You need an audiologist for hearing loss.
You were suddenly forced to shop in the most expensive, full retail departments of the store.
Just at the exact moment when your regular salary stops, you're living on a fixed pension, and suddenly you're thrust into the luxury retail levels of the healthcare system.
I want to ask the listener right now to visualize their own medical department store shopping habits. Look at your life right now. How often are you just cruising the ground floor swiping that Medicare card?
And are you genuinely mathematically prepared for the day when you might need to visit the upper floors every single week?
It is a terrifying realization when it hits you. And we must emphasize that this is not just Margaret's personal tragedy. She's not an outlier or an anomaly. She is a mathematical statistic.
If we zoom out and look at the macroeconomic data, it proves unequivocally that this is a systemic shock affecting millions.
Let's look at that data, because it is sobering. In 2017, the Australian Productivity Commission released a massive report. They found that out-of-pocket healthcare costs for people over the age of 65 average $4,200 annually.
that is cash straight out of their own bank accounts.
And the researchers found that healthcare spending doesn't just slowly creep up. It follows what they call a J-curve.
The J-curve is one of the most vital concepts for anyone planning for retirement to understand. Picture the letter J on a graph. During your 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, the line is relatively flat.
It sits at the bottom hook of the J.
Right. Your costs are stable and predictable. You might need a new pair of glasses or maybe a single root canal over a decade, but it averages out to a low baseline. But right around age 65, that line doesn't just slope gently upward, it spikes violently and vertically.
Let me throw another analogy at this to make it tangible. It's like driving a reliable car for 200,000 miles. For 10 years, all you pay for is cheap oil changes and the occasional new tire. The maintenance line is flat.
You think, this car is cheap to run.
Exactly. But right at the 200,000 mile mark, the transmission drops out, the timing belt snaps, and the alternator fails, all in the same month. That is the J-curve spike. The accumulated wear and tear suddenly requires massive, intensive, expensive intervention.
That is exactly how biological aging works. The cartilage in your knees wears thin over 60 years of walking, but it's only at age 65 that it finally grinds bone on bone and requires a $20,000 joint replacement.
And the data from the Australian Institute of Health and Welfare in 2023 shows this J-curve is getting much steeper. The average over 65 Australian now spends $6,100 out of pocket annually. That is a massive 43% jump from the 2018 figures.
43% in just 5 years.
I have to ask about the business side of this, though. Listeners might be thinking, are providers just being greedy? Are dentists and doctors just price gouging retirees because they know they're desperate? Or is something fundamental broken in the economic engine of the system?
It is a combination of systemic macroeconomic failures converging all at once. First, we have to look at Medicare rebates. A rebate is the amount the federal government contributes to a specific medical service.
The subsidy, basically.
Right. For years, successive governments essentially froze those rebates or allowed them to grow at a rate far, far below the actual rate of inflation. Those government subsidies have entirely failed to keep up with the real-world costs of running a medical or dental practice.
Rent goes up. The wages for receptionists and dental assistants go up.
Electricity goes up. So providers are abandoning the bulk billing model where they accept the Medicare rebate as the full and final payment, because if they do, they literally cannot afford to keep the lights on. They are forced to charge a gap fee to the patient just to break even.
And I imagine the materials inflation in dentistry is completely wild.
It's astronomical. If we look at how inflation specifically impacts the cost of those long-term dental implants we discussed, we are talking about highly specialized supply chains.
Because it's not just regular metal.
No, the medical-grade titanium is often imported. The specialized surgical sterilization equipment costs tens of thousands of dollars to run and maintain. The high-resolution 3D X-ray machines cost hundreds of thousands. All of those capital costs compound, and they are passed down to the patient at the bottom of the bill.
Plus, there's a massive geographic penalty to consider, right?
Yes, the geographic penalty is a huge factor in that $6,100 average. A lot of retirees, like Margaret, might consider moving out of the expensive major cities to regional areas for lifestyle reasons, or to cash in on their property and find cheaper housing.
A sea change or tree change?
Exactly. But regional areas have significantly fewer doctors. They have virtually no bulk billing specialists. The lack of competition means gap payments are often higher.
And the travel costs.
Plus, if you live regionally and need a complex jaw surgery or an implant, you now have to factor in the cost of petrol, the cost of a hotel room in the city, and the travel time on top of the medical bill. Dr. Sarah Henderson, a health economist from the Australian National University, perfectly described this current state of affairs as the Swiss cheese model.
The Swiss cheese model, meaning Medicare has real substance, it's a solid block of cheese that does a lot of good, but it is completely full of holes.
Exactly. And the most insidious part of the Swiss cheese model is that the holes are not randomly distributed. The massive gaps are strategically placed exactly where older Australians are most likely to step.
The upper floors.
The holes are dental care, physiotherapy, shearing aids, optical care, and specialist surgical waitlists. The system disproportionately fails to cover the exact ailments of aging.
And falling through just one of those holes isn't just a painful one-time event. It triggers what the research sources call the cascade spending trap. That $11,800 bill for Margaret's single tooth isn't the end of her financial bleeding.
A hole in the Swiss cheese often causes the structural integrity of the entire block to crumble.
Let's look at Professor Hal Swearson's 2019 study out of the University of Melbourne. He looked into this exact phenomenon. He found that retirees routinely underestimate their health costs by a staggering 68%.
They budget roughly $2,600, but actually end up spending $4,400.
And he defines this cascade spending as a situation where one uncovered medical expense actively generates several other distinct medical crises.
If we connect this concept to the bigger picture, the biological domino effect is devastating. Let's run a hypothetical scenario.
Good.
Let's say Margaret looks at her $14,000 savings account, looks at the $11,800 bill, and decides she simply cannot afford the implant. She takes the $800 extraction, has the tooth pulled, and decides to live with the permanent gap in her mouth.
Okay, so what happens next?
First, she loses significant chewing capacity. She suddenly has trouble breaking down dense, high-quality proteins like steak or chicken. She struggles with fibrous, nutrient-dense vegetables like raw carrots or broccoli.
So her diet unconsciously shifts towards softer, highly processed carbohydrates.
Because it's easier to eat, it's painless to eat. But this subtle dietary shift over several months leads to a sharp decline in her overall nutrition. She might develop vitamin deficiencies or lose muscle mass because she isn't eating enough protein.
And that triggers another medical visit.
This nutritional decline requires her to seek consultations with a clinical dietitian. And a dietitian is an upper floor expense, meaning more out-of-pocket gap fees.
The dominoes start falling.
It gets worse. The poor nutrition and loss of muscle mass leads to physical frailty. Frailty leads to a significantly higher risk of a balance issue or a fall in her home.
Well, a fall at 67 is serious.
A fall might mean a fractured hip, which requires an ambulance, hospitalization, and months of intensive, expensive physiotherapy. Another upper floor department.
And that's just the physical cascade. We also have to look at the psychological cascade of dental loss, chronic dental pain, or the deep social shame and embarrassment of having visible missing teeth or shifting jawline frequently causes older adults to withdraw socially.
They stop going out to dinners with friends, they isolate themselves in their homes.
And isolation is a massive precursor to mental health crises.
A huge one. Isolation and the chronic pain from altered bite mechanics lead to severe insomnia. Insomnia is one of the most powerful triggers for clinical depression in older adults.
So now, Margaret isn't just dealing with a missing tooth, she is dealing with severe clinical depression.
She needs to see a psychologist. And under Medicare, even with a mental health care plan from her GP, she will likely still face substantial out-of-pocket gap payments of $50 to $100 per session after the first few subsidized visits.
This is exactly why the continuity bias is so dangerous. You aren't just budgeting for a broken tooth, you have to budget for the psychological trauma, the nutritional collapse, and the physical frailty that cascades from the broken tooth. The sheer scale of that trap is mind-boggling.
Which is exactly why relying on the public safety net is the final desperate gamble that many retirees are forced to make.
Which perfectly transitions us into looking at that public safety net. Because some people listening right now might be thinking, well, if things get really bad and I don't have the 12 grand, I'll just go to the public dental hospital. That's what it's there for.
Let's talk about the public mirage versus the private reality. Margaret, terrified by the private bill, actually attempted to use the public system.
She visited the local public dental clinic in Western Sydney and met with a dentist named Dr. Kumar.
And Dr. Kumar's daily reality is absolutely heartbreaking. He is a skilled, dedicated professional, but he is operating in a system that is starved of resources.
He is essentially one dentist serving the complex, compounded needs of thousands of aging retirees across a massive geographic region.
The public system is not designed for comprehensive care. It is designed for strict triage. It prioritizes clinical life-or-death urgency and extreme social disadvantage.
So Margaret sits in the chair, Dr. Kumar assesses her infected jaw, and then he delivers the timeline. The wait list just to get the infected tooth extracted in the public system is 8 months.
8 months of living with an active infection and pain.
And if she wants a basic removable plastic denture to fill the gap so she can chew, that is another 6 months on a separate wait list after the gum heals. 14 months total.
But here's the absolute kicker. Dr. Kumar explains that the public system does not do bone grafts. It does not do titanium implants. It does not perform major structural reconstruction for retirees, period.
Because they just don't have the funding for it.
No, they don't have the budget, the time, or the specialist resources for it. They do basic, radical triage. They remove the immediate source of the infection by pulling the tooth, and they offer a cheap plastic prosthetic.
So wait, you're telling me the public system doesn't just make you wait in pain for a year? It actively forces you into a clinically inferior outcome.
It absolutely does. Because of everything we discussed about bone biology, if Margaret waits the public timeline of 14 months to resolve this issue, the bone loss in her jaw is permanent and irreversible.
Because the osteoclasts have already dissolved the bone.
As we explored, once those osteoclasts dissolve the bone, you cannot simply change your mind 5 years later, decide to spend the money, and place an implant. The foundation is gone.
Her choice in Dr. Kumar's office is stark and brutal. Accept a permanent gap, permanent bone loss, and eventually a removable plastic denture through the public system. Or find $11,800 in cash immediately to stop the jaw collapse in the private system.
It is the ultimate rock in a hard place.
All of this systemic breakdown brings us right back to Margaret, sitting alone at her kitchen table, staring at her meticulously crafted spreadsheet. It's time to define the concept of the retirement healthcare cliff.
The cliff is a specific, highly dangerous economic phenomenon. It is the precise moment in a person's life when 3 massive financial shifts happen simultaneously.
Okay, what are the 3 shifts?
First, you retire, which means you permanently lose your steady salary and any employer-subsidized health benefits you might have had. Second, your income drops significantly as you transition to a fixed-age pension or conservative superannuation drawdowns.
And the third?
And third, because of the J-curve of biological aging, your physical healthcare needs suddenly explode, forcing you to shop on the expensive upper floors of the medical department store. You lose your income at the exact moment your expenses spike.
Margaret's reality check at this cliff edge is devastating. Her entire liquid emergency fund, the cash she saved meticulously for years, the fund she thought was absolutely bulletproof, is $14,000.
And this single, unexpected dental procedure will instantly consume 84% of her entire safety net.
I keep thinking about the tragic irony of her situation. She did everything right. She was a math teacher. She followed the rules. She saved her money. She paid off her house. She paid her taxes.
But the financial system deliberately hid the true exponential variables of the biological equation from her.
It is a profound systemic failure. And it raises an incredibly important question for everyone listening to this. How do you, as a retiree, accurately distinguish between what you think is a safe financial buffer based on your continuity bias and decades of free ground floor shopping, and what the healthcare cliff actually requires of you in reality?
Well, this brings up a huge area we need to explore, the family dynamics and how adult children fit into this picture.
Because Margaret isn't just an isolated island. She has a daughter.
Exactly. When retirees hit this healthcare cliff, the financial shockwaves almost always hit their adult children next. And balancing supporting aging parents with your own family's financial needs is one of the most stressful things a middle-aged person can go through.
Let's talk about that, because explaining these financial risks to adult children who are helping with aging parents is crucial. What are the key warning signs that a family member is hiding mounting health costs?
Hiding it is incredibly common because of the shame involved. The warning signs are usually subtle at first. You might notice them avoiding chewy or crunchy foods at family dinners. They might start passing on social invitations they used to enjoy, often citing vague fatigue.
Or they might stop buying their regular medications to save money for dental pain relievers.
Right. Another huge red flag is if they suddenly become hyper-defensive or secretive about their mail or bank statements. You might see a stack of unopened bills from private clinics.
So how can adult children help parents navigate unexpected medical bills safely? What's the best way to intervene?
It requires an immense amount of tact. You have to keep the financial discussions calm and constructive during emergencies. One of the best ways is to frame the conversation around administrative help rather than financial charity.
Like saying, I'm here to help you organize things, rather than, let me pay your bills.
Exactly. Polite ways for seniors to initiate health cost talks or for kids to bring it up can be as simple as saying, the world of healthcare billing has gotten so complex lately, I'd love to sit down and help you audit your accounts just to make sure you aren't being overcharged.
Oh, that's a great script. What about scripts for children to gently ask parents specifically about their dental health?
You can try something like, "Hey mom, my dentist was just telling me how important bone density is as we get older, and it made me wonder, how long has it been since you had a panoramic x-ray to check your jaw health?"
It makes it conversational, not accusatory. And if you are an adult child hosting your first family healthcare budget meeting, we should probably draft a guide or a template for that agenda.
A family meeting agenda is essential to prevent chaos when an emergency strikes. Item 1 should always be an open assessment of current insurance coverage, a checklist for identifying hidden gaps in existing private health insurance.
Let's list some of those gaps out. What should they look for?
Check the waiting periods for major dental. Check the annual limits. A lot of people think they have major dental, but the policy caps out at $1,000 a year, which wouldn't even cover Margaret's bone graft.
Right. And check if implants are explicitly excluded.
Exactly. Item 2 on the agenda should be discussing the medical power of attorney. Drafting talking points for this is vital. It's not just about end-of-life care. It's about who has the legal right to talk to the billing departments and medical staff if the parent is incapacitated or overwhelmed by pain.
That is so important. What's item 3 on the family meeting agenda?
Proposing a strategy for sharing healthcare costs among multiple adult children. This is where families often resolve disagreements over medical payment responsibilities, or sadly, where they fall apart.
How do you keep family cost-sharing agreements simple and transparent? Because mixing family and money is always a powder keg.
The best recommendation is to set up a dedicated shared bank account strictly for parent medical expenses. Everyone contributes a set, agreed-upon monthly amount, whatever they can realistically afford without damaging their own finances. This way, when a $12,000 bill hits, you aren't scrambling to Venmo each other or arguing over who paid for the last doctor visit.
It's just a collective pool of resources for expensive, unexpected surgical procedures.
Exactly. Open communication prevents families from facing medical crises alone.
Let's pivot to the preventative side of things. We've talked about the disaster scenario, but how do we build a solution before the bomb goes off? Let's outline steps to build a more realistic healthcare emergency fund.
Well, the first step is to completely audit your current retirement budget for unexpected health costs. You need to create a list of simple monthly expense categories for seniors to track health spending.
Like tracking the small, recurring medical expenses.
Yes. You need a line item for gap payments, a line item for allied health like physio, and a specific dedicated line item for dental maintenance. To create a long-term savings roadmap specifically for future dental and vision needs, you have to do the math.
Let's do the math. A little practical math. Calculate the monthly savings needed to cover a $10,000 medical gap. Let's say you plan to retire in 5 years, and you know you'll need at least a 10 grand buffer for these upper floor expenses.
Okay, $10,000 divided by 5 years is $2,000 a year. Divide that by 12 months, and you need to be putting away roughly $167 a month strictly into a high-yield medical savings account starting today.
$167 a month. That's a car payment for some people.
It is, but you have to view it as a non-negotiable utility bill for your body.
And what if people are relying on their private health insurance to save them? We touched on this, but let's create a simple guide for comparing private dental insurance versus self-funded savings plans.
You really have to compare the actual long-term value of dental insurance plans. Here is how you do a quick table comparison in your head. Look at the monthly premium. Let's say it's an extra $100 a month for top-tier extras coverage. That's $1,200 a year.
Okay, $1,200 a year.
Now look at the annual limit for major dental on that policy. If the limit is $1,500 and you are paying $1,200 a year just to access it, your actual net benefit is only $300.
Wow.
And that's only if you actually need major dental work that year. If you don't, you just gave the insurance company $1,200. For many retirees, self-funding that $100 a month into their own high-yield account is mathematically superior.
That is a huge misconception parents have about dental insurance coverage. They think, I'm covered, I have top extras. But the fine print limits their protection to a fraction of the actual cost of complex surgery.
Precisely. Which is why preventing the decay in the first place is the ultimate financial strategy.
Right. Let's give listeners a monthly checklist for monitoring dental health before issues become emergencies. What are the preventative steps?
You need to be incredibly vigilant. Daily habits significantly reduce long-term dental procedure costs. First, use an electric toothbrush with a pressure sensor. Brushing too hard wears away enamel and causes gum recession. Second, you must floss or use a water flosser daily.
What are the signs of early gum disease to watch for at home? Because Margaret felt no pain until it was too late.
Gums that bleed when you brush, even slightly, are not normal. That is gingivitis, which leads to periodontitis, which dissolves the bone. Also, watch for gums pulling away from the teeth, making the teeth look longer, or persistent bad breath. Those are red flags.
So let's say someone is listening to this, they've done the audit, they realize they are entirely unprepared, and they are facing a massive bill. Let's research some low-cost dental financing options locally. How do you find dental financing that avoids predatory interest rates?
First, avoid putting an $11,000 medical bill on a standard credit card with a 22% interest rate. The interest alone will drown a fixed-income retiree.
What are the alternatives?
You need to look into strategies to negotiate payment plans directly with private dental clinics. Many private clinics offer interest-free payment plans through third-party medical finance companies if you pay the balance within 12 to 24 months. Always ask the clinic manager, not just the receptionist, if they have an in-house installment plan.
That's a great tip. And what about local government grants that might subsidize essential dental reconstruction for seniors?
They're rare and highly competitive, but they exist. You can contact local community health centers or the local council's aged care advocate. Sometimes there are specific pensioner grants for emergency medical interventions that prevent hospitalization. You have to advocate for yourself.
There are also community organizations and university dental schools, right?
Right, yes. University dental schools are a fantastic secret. Senior dental students perform the complex procedures, including implants, under the intense, direct supervision of master dental surgeons. It takes much longer because every step is graded, but it can cost a third of the private price.
Okay, we have covered so much heavy, complex ground today. From the brutal biology of bone resorption and supereruption to the 1984 political compromises of Medicare.
We covered the J-curve of aging costs, the Swiss cheese model of systemic gaps, and the terrifying reality of the $11,800 tooth.
We've looked deeply at how biological timelines completely ignore financial logic, and how a single vulnerability in your health can trigger a cascade of physical, nutritional, and psychological spending that destroys a fixed budget.
And we broke down the scripts, the family meeting agendas, and the vital role of adult children in safely navigating this minefield.
Which brings us to a final provocative thought I want to leave you with today. If macroeconomic healthcare spending follows a strict, inescapable J-curve,
And we know it does.
and the cascade spending trap means a single cracked molar can eventually impact your mental health, your diet, and your physical mobility. Should we entirely redefine what a retirement emergency fund actually is?
I think we have to.
Is it just a pile of liquid cash sitting in a generic bank account waiting for a rainy day? Or does true, resilient retirement planning require the creation of a dedicated health depreciation account?
A health depreciation account. I really like that concept.
Think about it. It would be modeled exactly like a homeowner's maintenance sinking fund. You know the roof on your house will eventually need replacing, so you aggressively save for it over decades. You know your teeth, your knees, and your hearing will eventually fail, so why don't we systematically save for their replacement?
Because your body, unlike your house, is the one piece of real estate you can never sell.
And you can never ever move out of.
It is the ultimate inescapable asset. You have no choice but to fund its maintenance, whether the system helps you or not.
Thank you for joining this deep dive into the source material with us. We hope we've given you a new perspective on the invisible machinery of retirement health.
Take some time this week to sit down and audit your own future upper floor medical needs.
Look hard at your budget, look closely at your gums, and maybe start viewing your body not just as biology, but as an asset that requires serious, dedicated financial maintenance. We will see you on the next one.